Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Hard 100, a video series documenting the culling of my collection from its enormous state down to a simple 100 games. Now, the rules are simple. I cannot get rid of a game until I played it, which is why we're going through a bit of a solo phase. A few of my games have a solo variant or a solo mode or whatever they do to get you to play it by yourself. So I've been going through a few of those to see if the game itself has anything to offer me or if it's just been taking up space on my shelf. Rule number 2, if I have the expansion plus the game, that equals 1 game. And rule number 3, once I get this thing down to the Hard 100, it's 1 in, 1 out. So today, with that in mind, we're taking a look at this heavy ass box right here that is upside down. I can't believe they printed my copy upside down. Oh no, they didn't. We're looking at Manhattan Project Energy Empire by Luke Lawrie and Tom Jolly. Manhattan Project Energy This box is heavy. I'm just gonna take off the lid and do what they do on the Dice Tower. Oh my god, that's so much better. This box is heavy as hell. This is a worker placement game. What you do is it's basically a sequel to the Manhattan Project. The original Manhattan Project had you competing in a worker placement game in order to build the atomic bomb. Kind of heavy stuff. This is the aftermath. This takes place in more of an atomic age, more of a 1950s, where all of the countries are trying to, I don't know what they're trying to do. I guess they're trying to make energy more efficient. You can have nuclear energy or coal power or whatever. And then look at all this stuff, boom. And then you're trying to complete different agendas and objectives and buy buildings. Now, the gimmick for this game, other than it's really, really pretty, and this cardboard is thick with like 4 C's. It is the thickest cardboard I've ever seen because that goes into the gameplay. On your turn, what you're gonna do is you are going to place your workers and your energy to do the various actions like any other worker placement game you've ever played. The only difference is whenever you spend a worker to buy a card, that card is of a certain color or a certain type. And the only way you're able to activate your own personal cards in your tableau is if you have used that section on the board. So you can't use a brown building if you haven't done a brown action already in that round. Now the cardboard is so thick because the big gimmick in this, like I mentioned, is that if someone goes to a place, it doesn't mean you can't go. It's not a mean game like that, but you are gonna have to pay extra being extra workers or workers and some of your energy to get that done. It's a pretty cool thing. It looks really good on the table. It's got some pretty good color to it. It's got a lot going on. The solo mode, it did the job. It just blocked off a couple of spaces, so when I wanted to go do something, I had to stack up my dudes in order to take that action, so I couldn't just run amok on the board like I was first player all over the place. Now the solo variant for Energy Empire, as I mentioned, just has it blocked off, but there are certain criteria that you have to meet, and it is a laundry list of shit that you have to do. You have to get a certain amount of points through the achievements. You have to get a certain score. You have to get this and that, and when you're looking at it in the manual, that's a lot of stuff. But at the end of it, I rocked the hell out of this, and I wasn't even trying. I understood I kind of had to do a couple of things, but the solo variant wasn't super challenging, and that may have been something to do with the reason I didn't super enjoy it very much. But I don't see how comparing my score to someone else would have made this any better. It just, if anything, it gave me something to focus on that wouldn't be there if it was a multiplayer experience. The player board itself is really cool because if you ever cause any kind of pollution, you have your own little board where you'll be able to put that pollution, and sometimes it can be toxic and not whatever. And then you have all of your bits as far as your resources, everything from oil barrels, which are kind of super cool, to plastic and science and other dudes, and you're rolling dice to get energy at the end. That's kind of a neat thing. Depending on the energy that you get will depend on what dice you use, and that'll depend how much energy you get. You really need to focus in the early turns to get a die or two. Otherwise, you're gonna be funked when it comes to you trying to get energy. Now, the game, it's a fine game. Whenever I was done with it solo mode, I didn't think to myself, I wonder how this would be with other players. Because I already know. I feel like I've seen everything this game has to offer in one playthrough. At no point was I riveted. At no point was I like, oh, I wonder, look at all these decisions I can make. They're all just kind of boring decisions. All of the buildings are just better versions of the spots that I already have on the board. There's not a lot going on here. It's very pretty. And I see there's a bit of variety because you can pick your actual country, America. And the buildings are a bit varied, and there are some global impact events that can be kind of neat, I guess. But at the end of the day, this is a heavy ass box, and there's not a lot in it. It's just all style over substance. Now, the reason why I picked this up is because I heard Manhattan Project was phenomenal. And I was like, oh, well, that's out of print. I can't find that now. This was before Manhattan Project 2 came out on Kickstarter. And so I was like, oh, Energy Empire. Okay, well, it's got Minion Games put the Manhattan Project on here, so it's probably got a lot of the same mechanics. I love worker placement. Let's give it a shot. The theme's kind of neat. I don't have anything in regards to use my workers and the energy they generate to power your ever-expanding collection of structures. I don't have anything that's like that. I guess Power Grid would be kind of like that, but imagine Power Grid if you had buildings where the power actually did something. I feel like I've done everything in this game. I feel like it's just a heavy-ass box that is just taking up room on my shelf. What's this say? Let me give you the specifics. 13 plus, I don't know why. I want to say maybe complexity, but it's not really that super complex. I think you could go lower. There's no text or anything on these cards that would give you any kind of indication that there's some serious shit going on here. 1 to 5 players. I played it with 1. God, I cannot imagine playing this game with 5 people. Like, I barely want to play it with 1 other person, and that's not really it. 1 to 2 hours. Yeah, I knocked this out in about 1 hour 15, learning the rules and doing everything. You add in a little bit of AP and some other stuff, and yeah, I would say more on the lines of 90 minutes. It takes a little bit to set up. It's not too bad. I'm not too worried about the setup on this one. But as far as my Hard 100 goes, we have our first game that is not going in my collection. This game is on the get rid list. So this game is on its way out. So I don't know how I'm gonna get rid of these games yet. I'm most likely gonna go on Board Game Geek and kind of get rid of them all there when I get a good chunk to give away. But so far, Manhattan Project, Energy Empire, out of the collection. It might be good for your shelf, but it's definitely not good for mine. So thank you so much. Good God, that box is heavy. I'm not putting it back. I'm gonna put it back here off camera because where am I gonna put it? But for the sake of, oh, look how cool this thematic thing is to go on the shelf. It's not going on my shelf. It's the first game to not make it in the Hard 100 that we've looked at. So it's a fine game. It didn't really get the old June bugs flowing, as you know what I mean. So as far as something Energy Empire, more like Energy Empire. I don't know, that was terrible. So once again, my name is Billy. This has been the Hard 100. We will see you next time.